Hey, welcome back to another video. Hopefully going to be doing something today that is front of mind for a lot of the Wisconsin anglers right now, which is the spring walleye run. If you've been following anybody on social media, probably even myself, you'll know that walleye is the hot ticket right now because they're running up the rivers and they are really active and biting right now. So that's what I'm going after, and it just so happened to work out that I've got an appointment I had to go to today. It's about 45 minutes out of town, and when I was checking out some of the directions for this place, it just so happens to be that there was a spillway about 100 feet from where I'm going to park, and it runs right through the city, and had no idea it was there. So this is going to be totally new water for me, and really a whole new section of river that I have never fished before. So we're gonna try a few things. I'm gonna talk a little bit about how to fish rivers in general and some tips and tricks on there. But target species walleye, and I have to assume they're up in there. I've caught some very far south on this stretch of river, like 3 hours south of where I'm fishing. So I'm assuming they're in there, but we're gonna try a few different tactics and see if I can't make something happen. But the good news is in Wisconsin, if you've not fished spillways, there's a lot of them, or dams, and they can be a great spot for multi-species angling. So regardless, my hope is we hook up on something and it's not just a bust day. But if you're like me, when you find out there's fishable water somewhere or water that looks fishy, I can't help myself, and pretty much means the rod's going to stay in my truck all the time so that if I got some extra time to go fish it, it's going to happen. So other than that, I got to get the rod in the truck. I'm running a little bit late already, because you got to have the more important stuff and priority set of packing gear than being on time. So I'm going to get the truck set up and ready to go, and I will see you next out on the river. Oh, I lost him. God, had it on there. I don't know if you could see it flopping out in the water. Just didn't have a good hookup on him. What I was doing there is trying to cast in this middle slack water. If you see, there's kind of this current line here. There's a current line in the middle, and you have the slack water kind of right in between there. That's where I'm trying to target these fish. Throwing a Jackal TN60, trying to go for a darker color because this is pretty stained water, and I'm just running it pretty, as slow as I can get without getting hung up. And that's exactly where it hit, was as I was kind of running it and bouncing it off the bottom. So let's see if we can't get back into that slack water and get something hooked up. Sure what that was. It must have been a log. It moved when I actually started pulling it, so I think it was a fish. Well, some line I can recycle. One of the things you'll quickly learn river fishing is if I want to keep my lure off the bottom, you'll see I'm keeping my rod tip real high, and even then I'm actually still bouncing off the bottom. But if I were to put this all the way down like this, it's actually going to cause that lure to go deeper and probably cause me to snag up. So if you're river fishing, it's one thing you want to learn real early. If you're in shallow areas or really rocky areas, make sure you keep that rod tip high and allow it to bounce over the rocks. And you can probably see on my lure it's getting torn up on the front part of it, but it's not actually digging the hooks in any rocks. And if you're wondering like how fast do you reel, so I'm reeling just enough where you can see my rod tip is hitting the bottom of the rocks here, and I'm just reeling fast enough so that I'm not getting stuck in them and I'm kind of bouncing over the top of it. And you can actually tell that that's happening just because on the top of my lure here you can see where all the rocks are hitting. So that's really what's after. This has a real heavy nose weight on it, so it actually runs in the water kind of straight down like this, just what's also helping this not get snagged. If I was using a regular crankbait or anything like that, I can pretty much tell you I'd be changing one out almost every cast. Oh, oh, there's another one. Thought I was snagged up and didn't get a good hook set on him. Oh, got bit off. 100%. Pike or muskie or something. Boy, I'm finding the fish, just not hooking up on them. One of the things you might have seen me down there is tie a polymer knot. Normally I would do an improved clinch knot, but with braid, pretty much always going to want to do a polymer knot. It cinches down on itself. With braid, it's way too easy to have it move. So if you're using braid, especially to something like a swivel, you know, or any type of, you know, connection that way, polymer knot's going to be the way you want to go. Worked up. Got something decent on. Oh God. Oh. What I think actually happened there is we had the fish and it ran into somebody else's fishing line on the shoreline there, which is what I picked up after the fact, and that caused the hooks to get pulled out of the fish. So it only pulled out when it got to the shoreline, and it must have hit this right when it got to the shoreline, and I think that's what actually made me lose the fish there. So not great, but what are you gonna do? Because it actually hooked up middle of the river here, and there's not enough line on here that would have actually caused that to be the reason I lost the fish. So we're gonna keep at it. All right, we got something. Looks like a good fish. Oh, looks like I snagged it, unfortunately. It's a carp. Which might explain why we kept losing everything. I'm sure it is snagged right in the side. If it actually bit this, I'll be absolutely shocked. And just the way it's coming in, I can tell it's snagged, probably right in the fin. This is a medium pole, so it's not necessarily the easiest thing here. Yeah, this is a big old buffalo. No, not what we're after. Still not bad to get something in after losing all those fish. I'd probably say, I don't know, somewhere around 10-15 pounds. Maybe not that, I'm probably exaggerating. That's probably a 8 or 9 pound buffalo carp. But yeah, not what we're after, but I guess we'll take it up. Well, let's go ahead and get this guy back. I'm sure he's still full of piss and vinegar here. Thanks, buddy. Yeah. Other way. Well, that might have been my answer as to what I kept hooking up on and missing potentially. I kept hooking up on these fish and losing them, and some of them had some pretty intense weight on it. Now I'm thinking, I wonder if that wasn't some buffalo carp that I was maybe hooking up on or getting snagged on potentially. But still had a couple times where, you know, one time my line was either cut on a rock, which it's possible with braid. I wasn't using a fluorocarbon leader. I just tied one on. But a couple of them, I swear I felt the head shakes of a walleye. So we're gonna keep at it. I'm gonna see if I can get something other than a carp. But hey, at least we got something on the end of our line, even if it's not in the way I would like to, which is snagging something within. So let's keep going after it. I'm using those TN60s, those jackals, and just running it slow enough that I can bounce it over the rocks, but not slow enough to where it gets stuck on it. So I'm looking for slack waters. That's what I'm running it through. And so far, that's where we've been getting bites. So let's keep at it. I think we got another carp on. He's really moving. Yep, that is exactly what we've got. Though this one almost looks like it's hooked in the mouth. Yeah, I don't know. That is strange. Boy, I'm sure that was snagged, but I've actually, you guys can let me know in the comments if you've experienced this before, but I've actually been in areas where the carp will actually bite an active line like this, or an active lure. Had them hit crankbaits and things like that. Well, a little bit smaller than the other one. I don't know, probably a 5-pounders, maybe a little bit more. But yeah, not what we're after. You can see where that bit right on the bottom there. It almost made me think it was in the mouth when I pulled it in, but probably just snagging on the bottom here. So we'll get him back. We'll see if it got me less wet than the last one here. Just give him a second. Riverfish, yeah, he was ready. Riverfish, you want to give a little bit more time. Just holding them by the tail, letting them get some oxygen back in their gills. If they get back in this water and they're too tired, they'll just end up dying and just ain't floating down the river. So don't want that to happen. Not these species I'm after, but not the way I want to catch them either. But hopefully we can get a walleye on the end of this, and enough with these carp. Boy, I will say though, if any of you river fish a lot, you'll know what I'm talking about. Snagging a carp is generally just a matter of, when, not if. Oh, I think we snagged another. Boy, they are just in here so thick. Yeah, there's another one. So obviously this is not what I'm trying to do today. I would much rather have some walleyes on my rod. But these carp are just in here so thick that as I'm just running it in, they're just getting snagged on my treble hooks. So let's get them in. Let's get one right under the gill plate. Oh, well, self-release, even better. Oh. Yeah, that was something that hit right there. So one of the things that I'm doing out here, because I've got about 20-pound braid on my medium action spinning rod here, braid can get sliced up on those rocks. So what I'm doing here is I am taking 10-pound test of fluorocarbon. I'm just doing about a 6 to 8 foot leader, and I use a quadruple surgeon's knot for my line connector. There's way better line connectors out there. I'm just very familiar with this one because of fly fishing. I use it a lot for tippet to leader connections. And honestly, I've never had an issue with it. I just do a quadruple surgeon's knot instead of a double or a triple like in fly fishing because of the higher gauge line. And it works totally fine with me. So I use that, but I use it because fluorocarbon is going to have a lot more abrasion resistance to it than you're going to see out of the braid. Braid can actually, in these type of environments like spillways or rivers, it's really rocky. Rocks can actually just slice this if you get it caught underneath it, where the fluorocarbon's got a little bit more stretch, a little bit more ability to get cut up on the rocks without actually losing your bait. So just another tip, I carry around various test pounds of different leader material, and I just tie them on depending on what situation I'm in. So I am sick of snagging carp, so we're gonna try a little bit of a plastic here. Work it a little bit slower. My hope is just bounce it off the bottom and avoid some of these carp that I'm endlessly catching with my jig and wrap. So give it a shot here. Well, this is one of the GT 360 plastics, and one of the things I like about it for river fishing, you got a really nice jig head on the bottom that'll allow you to bounce through it. hopefully shouldn't get it stuck as bad. Oh, got one. There we go. Now this is the intended species here. Oh. Wow, oh, there he is still. No way. Oh, that's hilarious. He came back so I could show him off on video. But this is the intended species. So I'll show the bait I caught him on here, but this is a little GT 360 swim bait. I was just running that real slow in the water there, just enough to where it was kind of bouncing off the bottom as slow as I could almost get it, and that like little guy hit. And if you ever want to know, we got some saugers in Wisconsin here, but the white tips on the fins is how you can tell it's a walleye. So not huge by any means, but after hooking up on 3 or 4 carp, this is exactly what I was hoping for. So let's go ahead and get them back. Well, hey, you know, you can probably see the weather's changed, not so much for the better. We're starting to get some rain. The wind started to pick up, and for whatever reason, it seems to be the walleye mood. I don't know if I've ever caught my best walleyes in great weather, it seems like. But finally hooked up after so many carp. I mean, it was nice to finally hook up on the intended species. Just switched over to a small little swim bait that I showed you there and worked it slow on the bottom, and that's what ended up working there. So I got a little bit left on the GoPro battery. Let's see if we can maybe snag a couple more while they're biting. Kind of seeing my 3 go-to walleye, spillway, or river baits. This next one is just a little hair jig. I like it when they get the tinsel in it, and colors vary, but this is another one I like to do, and I just bounced this right off the bottom. So you see me just kind of jigging my rod as I'm coming through on it. But yeah, that's really kind of the 3. I've got my, you know, Jackal, a GT 360 for more my like swing bait or plastic, and you'd be surprised how well a hair jig can work in areas like this. If you ever do get snagged up on the river, one of the other things you want to save a lot of your baits, try to go to the opposite angle of where you're snagged. So I was fishing up, and I want to try to get behind this bait to put that hook at a different angle and see if I can't get it to pull out. Not going to work every time, but sometimes you can get it out with that different angle. Oh, that came free. So all that was, like I said, a little bit different angle, and that just puts a different angle on the hook to bend out. And more often than not, you'll probably save your lure or jig in the process if you go about it that way. Well, probably gonna wrap it up here today. I can't be too mad. Honestly, pretty good day for a brand new stretch of water. Even though I know nobody likes catching carp generally, still pretty fun to get on the end of the line. I know snagging's not what we want to do, but for rough fish, it's just part of the game of what happens in these spillways and these rivers. So just kind of expect it to happen, but at least got onto our target species, which for a brand new stretch of water is a success for me. And you got to see kind of the 3 main baits I use for that: some form of crankbait or lipless crankbait, a little plastic like that GT 360 that I caught that walleye on, or those little bucktail or hair jigs. And really those are kind of my go-to baits anytime I'm going through a new area. So successful day, can't be mad about it, and hopefully you picked up a couple things to do on your own. If you did, do me a favor. I say it in every video, but I'm a newer channel, and definitely could use some love sharing this stuff out, and also liking and subscribing as well. I want to see what anybody wants to see as far as content goes. So do me a favor, leave me a comment if you found something helpful, if you got ideas of what to do on the next video. Really want to make content based on what people are looking for, tips and trick wise. Other than that, my hope is there's some better weather ahead and some even better fishing ahead, and I'll see all of you on the next video.